Welcome to the party. I'm not here right now, but I want you to listen very carefully. These guys are very funny, so pay attention. Enough talk. It's showtime.
Hello and welcome to Bags of Action. My name's Steve. My co-host is Pete.
Hello.
This episode we have a special guest. It's Dave Stokes.
Hello.
So this episode, three of us are talking about Darkman from 1990. It's been a while since I've seen it. How about you?
Yeah, the same. I've seen this film a lot in the past, but I hadn't seen it for some time. And there was quite a lot of things I'd forgotten. Mm-hmm. And there was lots of things I really, really remember. There were some specific scenes I really vividly remembered, but there were some things I was like, I don't remember there being another villain behind the villain. I thought it was just the other guy. But anyway, we'll come on to all of that. But yeah.
How about you, Dave?
I saw it at the cinema when it came out.
Posh.
And I would have been 15. It was probably one of the first 15s I ever got to see at the cinema. And it's probably one of them things where I saw it on the cinema, I saw it when it hit video, I saw it when it hit DVD. So I probably haven't seen it in 10 years, 15 years maybe, something like that. So yeah, it was nice to go back to it.
I knew that Sam Raimi was involved, but I didn't realize he had written, I just forgotten that he'd written the original one. And, he directed it too. And as soon as I saw his brother, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, written by two of the Raimi brothers, an appearance by the third Raimi brother. There's so many links in this to Sam Raimi's entire career. Well, and the Coen brothers. There's all kind of, little webs of who's in it. Because the writing credits in this are crazy. It's Sam Raimi and Ivan Raimi. Then you've got Chuck Farrer, who wrote Navy SEALs and went on to write Hard Target. Then you've got Daniel Golden and Joshua Golden, who from their IMDb page haven't written very much at all. But apparently I read a thing today that Joel and Ethan Coen, because they're in it, they got a cameo in it, driving the Oldsmobile in the helicopter bit near the end.
Oh, wow.
I didn't realise who the drivers were. I noticed the car. I didn't realise.
So it's Sam Raimi's car that's in all his films, but it was driven by the Coen brothers, who were his close friends. But they did a bit of like Shane Black was in Predator and was doing punch-ups on the script. The same happened here. So that means there were 7 writers on this film, but 2 of them were the Coen brothers who did the punch-ups stuff on set.
Wow.
Yeah, I do it for every film I watch. I look on IMDb and I'll just look for the behind-the-scenes goss. But apparently Raimi wanted to buy the rights to Batman and the Shadow.
Yeah.
And they were both gone, so he created his own superhero. So he wrote the script, and apparently the studio went, it's terrible. And so they gave it to someone else, and they rewrote it. Then it went back to Raimi, and it was Farrer it went to. Then it went back to them. They did more drafts. Then it went back to those 2 other guys, and then it went back to Raimi again. It was about 20 versions of it until they finally settled on that one, weirdly. But there we go.
I was looking at when this came out, because that's the other thing of when you're young, you don't look at any of this. You don't pay attention to what's going on, really.
We couldn't. There was no internet. We couldn't.
Well, that too. But even just being around in that time, we're all alive then, Pete. So
that's true. Yeah, I appreciate that part.
Yeah.
But you had to go to the library and get a book out about it.
Exactly. But now we can kind of look back and say, the year before Batman came out.
Yeah, which is one of the reasons this got fast-tracked. I believe. Well, I'll say fast-tracked. I think it was probably in development for a very long time, from what Dave has just said, but it probably suddenly got pushed forward because Danny Elfman did the score, so it kind of...
And it's a great score.
It's a great score.
It's really very, very kind of Tim Burton-y Batman. And the moments in this that are very much Tim Burton. But I'm just going to say about 1990, I looked at what other films came out that year. So the top 10 grossing films in 1990 were Ghost, Home Alone, Pretty Woman, Dances with Wolves, Total Recall, Back to the Future Part 3, Die Hard 2, Presumed Innocent, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Kindergarten Cop. And then this.
It's back when I used to watch more films because I've seen all of those.
Yeah. That baffles me. What was that you were just saying then? What was the list? Oh, yeah, it was like Back to the Future. I had no idea that like Back to the Future 3, Die Hard 2, and like Dances with Wolves all came out in the same year.
Yeah.
That's really crazy. I always imagined like Back to the Future. I mean, it makes sense. I think the second one was like 88 or something. So it would have made sense. But they always feel far older to me than that. And I don't know why. They always have.
But Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles got some similarities in this, in that it's a pseudo superhero with weird, quirky and offbeat comedy. And I'd forgotten the comedy in this film, probably on purpose, because it didn't work for me. The kind of really, really odd moments where, like not just the dream sequences where he starts to like jump around or he starts to go a bit mental by himself. And I thought, yeah, this is way overboard.
See, I like that. I thought it's very stylized, and I think
Pete. I like that.
Someone, that's why you have three people on.
It's always one.
It's his take on Phantom of the Opera or Hunchback of Notre Dame in many ways, and I like the stuff. It doesn't necessarily track the fact that he's a scientist. There's some things in here, like the fact he happens to be making a liquid skin, and then gets burnt. That's quite a convenient thing.
Yeah.
There's lots of things in it that are quite convenient, but I think I don't know. Watching it again, I'm like, if it's as a comic book movie that came from nothing, and I think the high concept works really, really well. And it delivers exactly. It's only 95 minutes long. You don't have to spend too long watching it. But I don't know. Maybe it's just different strokes for different folks. But I like the kind of over the top stuff. I think it kind of gets you kind of in his psyche, and it's a very Raimi thing to do. That kind of OTT humor, and also some of the editing stuff and the transitions and things. I think all those things together just mean that once he's had the accident, everything is. And he always shoots really tight on faces. I really noticed that today. I'm like, Raimi likes to keep you really close to the person, which, thank goodness it was good actors. That's the thing I would say. This could be a very, very B movie. But you think, you're saying about what happened what year. You think like Liam Neeson had done, because it always amazes me. People say, Liam Neeson reinvented himself as an action star. I'm like, well, no, he kind of started out doing that. Then he became more of a serious actor, and he's gone back to his roots, because the year before this was Next of Kin.
Which we talked about.
We covered before. Yeah, he's the brother. He's the brother.
He's Bra, the brother. And he's a hardcore kind of nut who goes and kills people. He's really good.
He's really good. And so this is pre-Schindler's List, which I haven't seen, embarrassingly enough.
What?
Well, I always thought it'd be a bit downbeat. I've been waiting to be in a good mood, and it hasn't happened since
It's not a comedy, Pete. You're right. Well, it's not a comedy.
But it is a brilliant.
He was in Nell and Rob Roy, and then obviously years later he was in Taken. But like Frances McDormand, I mean, these are two really good actors. I mean, this is before she was in Fargo, Primal Fear, Lone Star and stuff, but I guess she's got the links to the Coen brothers as well. She was also Sam Raimi's housemate. Some of the other casting that could have happened in this film. So apparently it was between Julia Roberts, Demi Moore and Bridget Fonda before his housemate got the part.
Wow.
And for the male lead, it was between, he wanted Bruce Campbell, which I'm sure we'll mention at some point later, maybe near the end. He wanted Bruce Campbell in it, but they said he's not a big enough name. But Liam Neeson wasn't really either. But Gary Oldman and Bill Paxton were both considered. And Bill Paxton apparently was the one who let Neeson know that there was this role that he could go for.
Yes, I read that, And they had a massive falling out about it. Apparently. Paxton told Liam Neeson that he was going up for Darkman. And so Neeson went for it as well, and he got it. And Paxman apparently didn't speak to him for months afterwards.
Well, it did spawn 2 sequels, and he wasn't in either of them. So
Arnold Vosloo was from Hard Target and The Mummy.
I haven't seen him. I haven't seen the sequels, and I think the first thing I saw Arnold Vosloo in was the first Mummy film.
Hard Target for me.
I probably didn't recognize him. I just didn't pay attention as much back then, but Yeah, I think Paxton did okay at that deal, to be honest.
Yeah, I do as well.
I have a feeling I have a feeling our scores are not going to all be the same. I don't know.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Well, without jumping straight to the end, it's like I remember watching it for this, and like the first scene opens, and I went, "Oh my god, is it all this bad?" I don't remember it being this awful. It's so camp and so badly written. And then they drive into this walk into this warehouse, and I'm just like, now if this was a John Woo movie, I'd be getting really excited because this is where you get an amazing action sequence. And then you've got a guy with a gun for a leg and stuff. And I was just like, oh my, I don't remember it being this. But it grows on you. I think you have to get into the world that it's, Raimi's kind of going, don't take this too seriously.
Yeah.
Mm. This is a bit of fun.
And I think I tuned into that more this time around because when I was younger, I probably just was like, this is cool.
I loved it when I was a kid.
And a lot of times we go back to films from this long ago, and there's a few I've made Steve watch, and he's been like, "Why? Why did you like this film? Why did you ever like this film?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know if I like it as much now, but I actually really enjoyed rewatching it, and I think I just got into that. It's an OTT comic book movie. It is trying to be the Batman and the Shadow with all the Raimi-isms, and I don't know, maybe I just sat grinning through the whole thing, which Steve's known me long enough to know that I don't grin at all. So do it for 95 minutes.
Yeah, it's weird. It's unnerving.
Yeah.
So do you think after all of this, because of this and this got him, and also doing The Evil Dead, this is why he got Spider-Man?
Well, this did very well, box office-wise, for a relatively low-budget film, I believe. But I guess Army of Darkness came after this, I think, which was kind of the third Evil Dead film, but had a more mainstream kind of approach. Then a film that I love, which a lot of people don't like, which is The Quick and the Dead.
I love it.
Fantastic.
Like yeah.
And then A Simple Plan, which was kind of a watered-down Fargo for me. And then
I've never seen that. Never seen it.
Saw that on the big screen. And then, Spider-Man. I wouldn't be surprised. It kind of, he took Elfman with him as well. I think. Didn't he do the Spider-Man?
It was a long time after that. It was 12 years. He did Spider-Man 2002. So he's done a lot of films in between.
He's doing Doctor Strange now, so that's going to be good. It's going to be interesting.
It's going to be weird. It's going to be properly weird. And it should be, because Doctor Strange is weird. That's one of the complaints I heard from Strange fans about the original. They said it wasn't weird enough.
That's it, yeah. There's lots of Dutch angles in it.
There were rumours last week, and it's probably nonsense, that Tom Cruise would be playing an alternative universe Tony Stark in the Doctor Strange movie, in the multiverse. as a cameo.
Is that like Tom Cruise playing Austin Powers in like Austin Powers 3, where he at the beginning in the movie he's playing Austin Powers?
Yeah. That'd be weird.
Yeah, I'll watch it.
Well, there's also that rumor. There was a rumor in the new Spider-Man you'd have the other Spider-Man actors in it because it's multiverse. So as well as Tom Holland, you'd have Andrew Garfield turn up, and you'd have Tobey Maguire in costume. And I'm like, I don't think that's true. I think if they did it, it's a bit too into the Spider-Verse on the back of that and Miles Morales. So unless they're trying to cash in on that for the third Tom, which they're filming, but anyway.
Apparently so, yes. But anyway, back to Dark.
Yeah. Darkman. I don't think it was directly because of this Raimi got Spider-Man, and probably they knew he could do superhero films, and it was a long time after, and he'd done enough that he had the sensibility, and that he was probably a safer director, I think, than some people. Yeah. But I wouldn't, unlike Pete, I didn't come away with going, oh, this is brilliant. I thought, I know it's early days kind of superhero films, and I know around this time we'd had Batman, The Shadow was around here. Wasn't Blade pretty much around this time as well, the first one?
No, Blade's 1908, isn't it? I think it's a bit later.
I'm going to have to look it up now. Well, you talk amongst yourself, I'll look it up.
Okay.
But it's 98. Wow, God, it was a long time ago.
Yeah. I mean, surely Darkman was the first R-rated superhero movie. It's got to be.
Yeah, really.
Batman would have been a PG or a 12, PG-13 in America, whatever it would be.
15, we didn't have 12s back then, did we?
Ghost was the first 12.
Oh, wow, that's the same year. That's the same year.
Yeah, as I recall.
Wow.
Because, I mean, I just kind of remember, like, I saw Evil Dead ridiculously young. I think my dad showed it me on, like, a pirated VHS when I was, like, 8 or something ridiculous. And I loved it. And then I saw Evil Dead 2, and it was just, the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my life. So when I saw that the same guy was doing the superhero movie, I was totally on board, and I was there the day it opened. And it just felt like, it's a great film. It felt a bit like Raimi Light. I was expecting Evil Dead with a superhero in it, like crazy violence and crazy stunts and everything. And I was just like, oh, that isn't what it is. But I loved it, but it definitely wasn't what I thought it would be. I'll tell you the other thing. Watching it this time, just quickly, I checked, this movie cost like 16 million, which ain't a bad budget for back then. But I found that some of that film looked shockingly cheap. I mean, you've got the car chase at the end, which is really, really well done, and the helicopter chase and stuff. That's amazing set piece. But some of that green screen is shocking, even for 1990, I think it was. It's pretty bad. It looks like all the money went on one thing, or certain things, and other things. Raimi just with his indie creds, he was.
I think he's a bit like Robert Rodriguez. It's almost like he'd rather do it with his people or do it himself. Which
that's it,
which kind of works maybe when it's an indie film, but when you've got, like you say, they're spending kind of studio money to do some things.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. It's sort of I think he gets away with it just because it's him and because he does kind of, it's a bit like in Highlander in a way, where you've got these kind of over the top kind of crazy edits and like transitions and stuff, and you kind of go at the bit where the funeral, where dreadful.
Dreadful. Just dreadful. I mean, I appreciate him doing it, and it's like, okay, fair enough. I mean, don't get me wrong, that explosion, that over the head, over the top shot of the thing exploding and his body coming past the camera, that has to be one of my favourite shots in the history of films.
And you hear him going,
It's incredible. I've never seen it before, and I've never seen it since.
Nope.
It's a brilliant shot. Amazing. Yeah, I loved it. I love things like that. But it is a bit cheap in places. You can hear it creak. Yeah.
I did think it was a bit extreme that they actually killed him, to be honest, because they go in and say, we want these documents. And he goes, okay, I haven't got them. And then the guy goes, I found them. And I'm thinking, then are they not just going to leave him? And they don't just beat him up. They absolutely destroy him and kill him and blow up the lab. And I was thinking, why? It's not like he put up a massive fight because there's 7 or 8 of them with guns and they're really tough. And yeah, I know the film doesn't work out at Pete. That's not my point. My point is their reaction was a bit extreme. He didn't even cut off his fingers for his collection.
No, that's true.
I was like,
and it wasn't even his document. He just happened to live with the person who had the document.
If he told them to go fuck themselves or something, then you could understand their reaction, or he really mouthy, but he didn't. He was just like, I don't know.
But I think that's part of the kind of OTT kind of trying to make him a bit like the Joker almost. It's that heightened kind of, masochistic kind of thing, which you can, now that I read the thing that he really wanted to do Batman, it's kind of like you've got these really over-top villains in this city that's kind of got all these kind of property developers who are really shadowy and underworld, and the villains are over the top, and the hero creates more villains. Like, oh, hang on, it is Batman. Then you'll start thinking of it like that. It does. It leans much more into that than I realized at the time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. And it worked. It made like $49-50 million on a $60 million budget. It made a ton of money for back then.
Back then, yeah. But if you think about it, his origin story is basically, what if the Joker turned out to be a good guy? Because it's exactly the same thing. He's scarred, he's put in a vat of acid, comes out disfigured, goes a bit crazy, and instead of torturing someone who dresses up like a bat, he goes around torturing other villains.
Yeah, I mean, he murders. He's just straight out murders people. He's a superhero. That's pretty dark.
But he also does a nice dance number.
Yeah, what was that about?
He's friendly to the cat at some points.
Yeah.
Other points he's mean to the cat.
That's the Blake Snyder's like when he can't save a cat, he can just stroke a cat. But then the cat didn't like him. The cat didn't like what he looked like after his accident, which I thought was a bit harsh.
Yeah.
Shallow
I'll
cat.
tell you something else I noticed. I don't know if you guys did. I don't know if you're Jackie Chan fans or not. But that helicopter chase, that is remarkably similar to what Jackie Chan did 2 years later in Police Story 3.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
When I watched Darkman, I was kind of like, oh, is that where he got it from? Except he did it for real and really got the helicopter because he didn't. But I never twigged that until I watched it. And I was just like, I wonder where that,
I haven't seen that film in a long time.
Oh, great film. I love me some Jackie Chan.
Going back years, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've
Well,
seen
not
that.
so much now, bless him. It's amazing he's still alive. Up to, I don't know, 95, 96, up to like Drunken Master 2 and things like that, and Thunderbolt, Mr. Nice Guy. I was all in. But after that, he just got a bit older and a bit slower and, more Thunderbolts. And I was kind of like, yeah, they're just not as great as they used to be. But huge respect for him. He's awesome.
So, what else did you like about this film? Anything? Anyone?
So harsh. This is not what I was expecting. I'm
You know what?
disappointed.
I'm being harsh on it, but I did genuinely, like I said before we start recording, I've seen this twice now in a very short space of time, and I enjoyed it more the second time. I did enjoy it, but if we're being critical as like, a filmmaker, and I'm just kind of like, oh, that's a bit janky or whatever, but it's entertaining. The helicopter chase is brilliant. Apart from that weird little insert of the legs running on the top of the truck, I can live without that.
That was odd. Yeah.
That was so Raimi. It was brilliant. It is what it is. I think it's one of those films you can't overanalyze. It's just like, it's popcorn on film. And it's great. It's not going to win any Oscars. It's not going to win any awards, but it's bloody entertaining. Liam Neeson's all right. It's not not a terrible accent. It's a strange bit of casting, really.
Especially then, because he kind of he'd done Excalibur a long time before, and he'd done, like you say, kind of Next of Kin was in his first maybe Hollywood role. But it's weird to say can't be Bruce Campbell because he's not well known enough. I wouldn't say that anyone knew Liam Neeson any more than they did Bruce Campbell at that point.
Yeah.
It's the first thing I saw Liam Neeson in. I saw Next of Kin after, even though it came out just before. But I think it was the first time I'd seen it. And the same with McCorman. If you look at McDormand, I think the career that she's had since then, this is probably one of the few kind of probably throwaway movies that she's been in, really.
Yeah. She was quoted as saying, "This is my only bimbo role." Apparently, she wasn't great. Raimi and her had some problems, apparently. She was a bit awkward to be around. But obviously, I understand it. She's an actress, and what she had to do was pretty much scream and cry. That was pretty.
And then go. The weird thing that I found actually is that, and I'd forgotten this completely. So this Strack is the kind of real villain behind the scenes, behind Durand.
Yeah.
And she's worked out what's wrong with him. She confronts him and she's like, "No, it's illegal. You're in so much trouble." Then her husband dies and she goes, "Oh, but let's have a dance anyway." And then might as well start. It's like 2 minutes later. Yeah. It's like, and again, that was one thing I did, because quite a lot of this film I thought, it lives up to its promise. It does this high concept and it does it very well. It's a revenge film and that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
But then I started to go, well, but the only reason you kind of put her with him is because it really serves what happens in the story. There's no real reason for her to start some kind of relationship with Strack, and it doesn't really track.
No,
because if she felt like that, she wouldn't have been that bothered in the first place about the memo. And
exactly.
And that so the downside to me, that alongside the man who makes liquid skin gets face burnt off and needs liquid skin. And I guess, but again, I lent into it and I believed it today. But the fact that he can put on anyone's face is a little bit, it's a slight, I don't think.
I tell you what, the thing that got me, and it's probably probably no one else will care, the most impressive special effect I thought in that entire film was those shots of the cells and they broke up. I haven't got a clue how they did that. Not a clue. You know what I mean? That was like 1992. It wasn't CG. It wasn't anything. That was something practical. And I was just like, how the hell did they do that? I have no idea. Yeah, when they look through the thing.
Yeah, microscope, yeah.
Petri dish. When they got to the 99 minutes, you see the cells break. I was just like...
And even things like the computer stuff and the reconstructions, that looked much better than a lot of the green screen stuff comparatively.
Yeah.
It is odd. But like you said about the green screen stuff before and the helicopter thing, that was weird because it's like, it's a real helicopter. Oh no, now it's green screen. It was kind of, it's one sequence where you're flipping between, because I think you're as an audience, you'll buy one or the other for a sequence.
Yeah.
But because it was kind of moving between the two, that was a bit, and it's quite a long sequence, that helicopter sequence. So you kind
of long. It's really expensive. Well, they had a ton of money.
Where the money went.
Let's just blow it all on the third act. But one of the things. There are lots of things I like about it. You know, I love the music. I love the fact that Sam Raimi did a superhero movie because Doctor Strange will be totally slick. It'll be like Spider-Man. Nothing about Spider-Man really says Sam Raimi to me. Really, not the old, the 80s, 90s Sam Raimi, certainly.
Yeah.
So I think this is, it'll be it's a little piece of history where he did do this, and it's bonkers. And someone trusted him with $16 million to make something that weird.
And I like the way it's mentioned the cameo of the Coen brothers, but he also there's a couple more cameos in there. John Landis is in the hospital as one of the physicians.
With Jenny Agutter,
who's also uncredited.
Yes. I noticed her, yeah.
I am here to provide exposition, and then I will be leaving.
I'm here for 5 minutes, then I'm off.
Yeah. It's almost like we've got this big exposition.
Does anyone know? Was he just on the set that day, so they chucked him in?
I don't know if it's just... I think weird, because he's obviously... Whether he's just gone... Because hang on, did Landis do... American Werewolf.
Yeah.
With Jenny Agutter. So maybe that's why. Maybe. It feels like he's just kind of like on, I don't know, they've got to put, we really want to make this film now. Batman's come out. That film we talked about, want to make it. Okay. What do we need to make it? I need the Coen brothers to be in it. Okay. What else? John Landis and Harrison to be in it. You can't have Bruce Campbell. Can I have him at the end? Can Bruce Campbell be in the very end, please?
Yeah. I tell you what, man, when I was a kid in the cinema, I can't tell you how excited I got by that 5-second shot of Bruce Campbell. It was just like, that made the movie for me. I was just like, and he's in this. And if only it should have been him.
There's part of me watching it again today that thought, rather than making the 2 sequels, and apparently what happened with the sequels is they made Darkman Die, and they were about to release it straight to video, and then Larry Drake from LA Law, and he just done Dr. Giggles, which had done really well as a horror film.
Right.
He became available. They went, we'll make another one because we can bring Durand back. And it's called like The Return of Durand. And then they released that first before the one they made before it. So they
really? The 3 was made before 2?
Before 2. Yeah.
God.
Yeah, I read that, yeah.
But
I've seen the trailer. That was enough. I didn't listen to the
I wonder if it was not quite a backdoor pilot. I wonder if Raimi was like, okay, so he changes his physique. At the end, he's Bruce Campbell. It's going to do well. You're going to give me a second film, and I can have the actor that I wanted in the first place.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah. Why didn't they just, instead of Bosley, why didn't they just get Campbell? Maybe
imagine that. Imagine they do 3 or 4 films with different actors in the role, but all done by Raimi. That could have been pretty interesting.
Great idea, yeah.
If you think about where the kind of the origins, we talked about, the Batman and also Shadow, but if you think about other things where they changed their faces, a very, very modern would be Human Target. But going back to that period in the 70s, and which probably was an influence on him, was Mission Impossible, of course. I mean, now it's super slick in the Tom Cruise film. It's all, yes, look, and they take out the voice and everything's perfect. But back then, I had him listening to the cassette and playing over the phrasing over and over again. And, that was really cool. And I just thought that was really interesting. And also from a technology perspective, 3D printing in 1990. Now, we're not even there yet. We're not even printing organs or tissue or skin. And he's doing liquid tissue in 1990. Yeah. Now you look at it and you go, that's really cool. I wonder if we're nearly there. But back then, it was like, it's just sci-fi. It's like...
Sam Raimi invented 3D printing.
It's like having a computer and going, computer, play me some Beethoven. Silly Star Trek.
That'll never happen. That'll never happen.
And yet, he did it in 1990. So...
1990, yeah.
But it's interesting because I know, like Barry from Geek Syndicate will often say, love all the Batman movies, but he's supposed to be the world's greatest detective. Why doesn't he do any detective work?
Mm-hmm.
And you could argue that this is a truer version of Batman because he does detective work. He finds out where people's houses are. He records them. He does
takes
surveillance.
photos so he can get all the skin.
Which is, again, is quite like, I'm a scientist. I now need to go off and do these things that I've had no training for. But, you know, but he does. I'd forgotten that. There's more of a pulp kind of element to the to that side of stuff, I think.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I thought the same thing that, you know, you see him hiding with a camera and taking pictures and doing that. I love all that stuff. I thought that was really clever. The one thing I did think when I was watching it today, it was just like, where's his money coming from? It's like, he got blown up. It's not like he's going back to his bank. Where's he ordered that camera? I don't know where, and all the chemicals. I know he, like, you know, fixed all his old machines and stuff. But I was just like, and then obviously he stole the money from the, that was the other thing. Who has a secret case-switching rendezvous in a massive pane of glass leading onto the street?
Yeah.
Madness.
Brilliant.
Brilliant, yeah.
I just like the fact that when he got his machines, he had them in the trolley and he pushed them. And then when he got there, they're all like 20 foot tall and they're all in perfect condition. Like, how many trips did he do with that shopping trolley? And no one saw him going down the street with these massive machines. I was like, okay. Things you picked up the second time.
I don't know if it was a mistake or I just missed the point of it. Do you know when, after the brilliant bit where he breaks that guy's fingers and kind of, they both do that weird Evil Dead scream each, which is just glorious.
Take the fucking elephant.
Yeah.
That was brilliant. I love that.
But then, like, she chases him back and you see him without his mask because it's obviously melted. And then she speaks and then he cries and he puts his hand to his face, but his hands are normal.
Oh, so it's because they haven't melted yet.
Yeah, why didn't his hands melt then if his face did?
Well, I think he was because he was in daylight. He went back inside in the dark, so he's back inside the.
Is that what we're going with?
Yeah.
All right.
They took my hands.
They took my. Yeah, I didn't get that. They took my. Like, it only just noticed. You've been typing. Not.
I think that was just they're like, Evil Dead. We need to show a nice kind of bony hand shot. Let's squeeze it in.
Probably kind of Crypt Keeper. One normal hand typing, one kind of weird typing.
One weird stop motion typing hand.
Yeah.
Totally stop motion, wasn't it? It looked like it was.
That's where the money went.
You'd never do like 120 words a minute if one of your hands was.
No. Never going to happen. But that's weird. It's like, I sit here going, well, this is weird and that's stupid and that's dumb. But I sit here thinking about it going, I still love it though. Because for all of its faults, it's a really entertaining film. It hasn't aged great. Like some films, I'm sure, I haven't seen Die Hard 2 in forever, but I'm sure that hasn't aged great, in 30 years. But it's definitely a movie of its time. And it looks like it's like we're just getting out of the 80s and the big muscly dudes and machine guns, but just into the 90s. And so it's trying to be something new. It's trying to be Batman. It's trying to be a bit cooler. It's just kind of trying to find its way. And then obviously later on, action movies just completely changed in the 90s. But I think this was kind of, with Die Hard 2 was whatever it was. I was never a huge fan. I'm 1 and 3. I don't care about them 2. Really don't.
And no one cares about anything after 3.
Yeah. I'm 4's okay. I can tolerate the uncut version of 4, not the 12 version that's got all the swearing and all the violence cut out of it. It's nonsense. But yeah, 1 and 3, I just adore. Whenever I was ill off school, my mom would go, "Do you want anything from down the shops?" And I would always go, Die Hard. And it was whenever I was off school, she would bring me Die Hard on video, whether I was 10, 11, 12, whatever it would have been. It had to be Die Hard. But this is the Die Hard podcast, so I'll shut up.
Okay. So, Pete, tell us why you like this film so much. I thought it was okay. I thought it was fun, but weird at times and slightly too over the top. And I know just the year before we'd had Batman from, with Michael Keaton, who I'm still not, anyway, and Jack Nicholson, so over the top and so weird. But maybe it's because he didn't have anyone to really bounce off. Maybe because there wasn't a straight man like there was in Batman. That's why it probably bothered me so much. Like the weirdness was so, like he was talking to himself and dancing around and hugging with the cat.
He'd had quite a difficult time.
I'm not arguing that. I'm just like,
I think if you'd lost your face and your potential fiance and your hands, one of which has become stop motion, and you're living in a like a abandoned place with a cat, I think I too would be dancing around with a funnel on my head and thinking I was a freak. I don't know. It's weird because a lot of films, like I hated the Dick Tracy film with a passion. I saw that in the cinema. I thought it was one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life, and I've never seen it again, and I don't want to. But that was like an over the top. It's weird, like but for some reason, this really works for me. I'll be very honest. The bit I didn't tell you before we decided to do this is I had a Darkman. I bought this on VHS. I had a Darkman poster in my bedroom, which I then took with me to uni. At one point, if I had a son, I wanted to call him Peyton. And I hate that name. That is how much I was into this film. So
we've crushed your dreams.
I've possibly got like blinkers of teenage nostalgia in here somewhere, I think.
Oh dear, I don't know. Probably at the time, I think I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was exciting. The special effects were brilliant because they were of the time. They were really, they were inventive, they were clever, the skin was really cool. And the fact that when there were one of the funniest moments is when he set up the bald guy, they throw him out the window, he lands on the car, and the woman turns around and he's already sat behind on the bus stop. That was really good. I mean, I know it's all camera trickery and stuff, but I thought that was really cool. Although I was watching it with someone and I went, God, she's really annoying. She screams really loudly. Yeah. She went on like 5 minutes.
Yeah, imagine being cast just to scream.
Screaming woman, that's your credit. Yeah. I was a screaming woman in Darkman, were you? You'll remember me. Mm.
Yeah, I mean, I for all of its faults and it's, 30 years old and everything, I would totally, if someone said, should I watch Darkman? I'd be like, yeah. Yes, you should. Because it's bloody entertaining. Sorry, that's me.
I know. Steve knows how much I love a downbeat ending. And it has a downbeat ending. They don't end up getting back together. He disappears into the night, turns into Bruce Campbell. It's all very the end of Dark Knight, kind of, this is what the city needs, etc. I'm off. I'm a monster. And he embraces the fact he's a monster. It doesn't have that kind of... It could have easily been, it's this skin formula now works in the day. Let's get married. Which
Deadpool. It's Deadpool.
Yeah.
That's what when I was watching this. No, I suddenly went, hang on. She does the exact opposite. She goes, yeah, I can cope with it. When in reality, it'd be like, no.
I love the fact that it's a downer, and nothing's really resolved. He kills the guy. I mean, that bit of dialogue they have right when he drops the guy through the scaffolding, and he says, I've learned to live with a lot of things, and then that little bit of conversation he has with Frances McDormand in the lift. It's probably my favourite bit of dialogue in the whole film because it just describes exactly why he was like, I thought I was just me on the, I'm still me inside, but I'm not, I'm a murderer now. This is what I do. And this is what I will continue to do. And I just thought that was brilliant. He puts the mask on and disappears. And, obviously there should have been this, let's pretend those other two don't exist. There should have been a proper sequel to see what happened next. But
do we know why Raimi and he didn't come back? Liam Neeson came. Do we know why either of them come back for the sequels? If this did well, as we said it did, do we know why?
No, not sure. Really. So it was a few years later, and it was straight to video. Different producer, different kind of. I don't think anyone returned actually. Well, apart from Larry Drake, who came back in the third, which became the second movie.
Yeah.
Despite the fact he's pretty sure he would have died in that helicopter, unless maybe he came back with the same ability. As Darkman. I don't know. I will never watch it, so I will never find out.
Let's pretend it's one movie.
And before we started recording, we were talking a little bit about Roadhouse. I'm doing a slight tangent like the Die Hard one. So I know Steve hasn't seen it. Have you ever seen the Roadhouse sequel, Dave?
No, I didn't know there was one.
I will Men in Black you. Imagine that it doesn't exist. Don't ever watch.
There's one Matrix film.
Yeah.
And there's one Darkman film, and there's one Roadhouse film. That's it.
Who's the star of Roadhouse 2?
I think it's Jonathan Skaich. It's not...
I don't know who that is.
The villain in it is Jake Busey, an early Jake Busey role.
Wow.
And the only returning person is, I think, his uncle who owns the Double Juice. No one else is the same.
Doesn't the musician come back?
Oh, what's his name?
The blind musician. Doesn't he come back?
Whose name I've
Jeff
completely
Healy.
forgotten. Yeah, Jeff Healy.
Jeff Healy, yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't you say there was going to be a sequel, like another one?
They were going to reboot it with Ronda Rousey as his daughter or niece, but that's been shelved, I believe.
Poo-pooed. That's gone.
Yeah. Wow. No, that's blown me away. I had no idea they'd made a direct video.
They haven't. I'm just
no, it's having me on. Now I'm going to have to YouTube that now, and I've got to see.
Seriously.
How bad it was. Pete's been exploring the multiverse and just coming up.
Halfway through that film, I just thought to myself, what am I doing with my life?
Better than this.
Yeah. I could be watching something else, and I'm watching this.
Oh man! But no, I'm sad there wasn't a Raimi sequel. It definitely made enough money to warrant a sequel. But whatever reason it was, what did we say? What did he do after? Oh, well, he was doing Army of Darkness forever.
Pretty much straight after this.
Yeah, maybe there just never was time, and after that, it was like maybe people don't care anymore. I don't know. It's a shame. It was a good film. I enjoyed it.
Are we ready to give it some scores?
I think so.
Enough with the yakety-yak. What is your score?
I'll go first, Pete, because then you can reflect your score depending on what we say, or modify it, or not. Okay, so it's been a long time since I've seen this film. It's got to be 10, 15 years. I'd forgotten some of the really wacky bits. I'd remembered the basic structure of the story. I'd forgotten how much Raimi was involved. I knew he directed, but I didn't realize he'd be involved with the writing. Watching it 30 years on, I think it's aged fairly well. We've talked about this in the past, where if the only thing you're commenting on is the special effects, and you remake it just for that purpose, then all you give a shit about is style over substance. So if they'd remade this today and did exactly the same, just update the CGI, I just wouldn't bother watching it because there's just no point. If it hasn't got the heart, which there is some of it, we've talked about it, there are little key moments where he talks to Francis McDormand and the fact that he can't go back to being who he was. And even if he could perfect the skin, it's not about that. He's become this other thing, this other person now. So it's a good film. It's solid. It's a bit weird. There's some stuff that isn't quite to my tastes, but, I can look past that. So I think it's pretty solid. I'm going to give it a solid 3 out of 5. I think that's fair. Dave, you go next.
3. I remember the last one I did. We're not allowed halves, are we?
No half bags. 1 to 5. 5 is the max. No half bags.
5 is the max. When I saw this and I was 15, it would have been a 5. I walked out that cinema thinking it was better than Batman. I adored that film. Now I'm, 30 years later and I'm nearly 45. It's a 3. It's not a bad film. It's thoroughly entertaining. It's got all those lovely little Sam Raimi-isms. It does have a lot of heart to it. I'm amazed we didn't speak about that more, actually, because it is. The whole film is him being brokenhearted and, pining for the life that was stolen from him and knowing he can never go back to it. Oh, man, now I've said that. Is it a 4?
It's very Phantom of the Opera. It's very Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Layers, man. No, I'll stick with you.
Okay.
Yeah, you know what? 4. It's going to be a 4. Yeah.
Pete.
Big decision, that was.
Do I stick to my guns? This is
stick to your guns, Pete. Come on.
Yeah, but I don't want to lose credibility.
Don't give it to peer pressure, Pete.
I don't want to lose friends, credibility, whatever else I've got left in this world. So I would, as Dave described it, I was, similar kind of age when I saw it, and at the time I was like, this is the greatest film that's ever been made because it's got this heightened thing. As a teenage boy, revenge is a big, I don't know, maybe not, just me, but revenge is a big emotion. It's kind of thing, it's getting your own back on people, the kind of thing you can't do yourself. So it's like, and it was kind of a superhero film, but it was a bit darker, and it was kind of, and I like the over-the-top stuff. So I think, a brilliant scientist, Left 4 Dead, returns to exact revenge on the people who burned him alive, and it does exactly what it says it will do. That's what happens. Yep. So, and I said it was a very important film to me. This was kind of this was on the wall alongside my kind of
posters.
Reservoir
Dogs.
Yeah. I am a cliche.
Gillian Anderson from the X-Files.
I am a cliche.
Might have been. I'm a hard target poster, but I'm the
I had a hard target poster.
There you go. I'm a hard boiled poster as well. I don't know. It was a 5 when I was a young lad. Like today, it helped that I was like in the middle of a pandemic and you get a day off work and you sit and watch one of the films when you were a teenager. I just grinned from ear to ear for an hour and a half. And I came on here with a 5-bag score in my pocket.
Okay.
Thinking, yes, it's not Die Hard, it's not Predator, it's not Lethal Weapon, but its own little thing. It's very special to me. However, we've been discussing it for quite a while, and I'm wondering if I may have lost my mind. So, I don't know, it's a comic movie with a high concept, a visionary director, some really good actors. Am I going to... But I don't think I can give it 5. So I'm going to, under peer pressure, my Dave has gone up 1, I'm going to go down 1. I'm going to meet him at 4 bags.
Okay.
And that's because she should never have gone out with that bloke.
No.
Well, no, that was a bit
grieving.
He's barely cold.
She was grieving. That's why she did it. She was concerned.
They buried his ear, and then she goes out with the other guy.
Yeah, buried the beast of his ear, even though he seemed to have 2 normal ears. Bird's ears, but they were both still on his head.
I like the little conversation with the gravedigger when he goes, "You haven't done much work, just an ear," and that was actually much to bury, wasn't there? I get to still a huge mound of earth in the grave. I'm like, why? It's just an ear. How much? It's just. Yeah.
It took longer. It took longer for her to transition to the funeral than it did for him.
I think so. Yeah. Anyway, that was our discussion of Darkman. Have you seen it? If so, get in touch. Let us know. Is it 5, as Pete thinks, or is it a 3 or less? Who knows? Some people may not like it. Who knows? Anyway,
on Netflix.
It's on Netflix at the moment, so go and check it out. Get in touch with us all the usual ways. We're on email, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Ko-fi. If you want to support us on there. Are we on Ko-fi?
Yes.
Yeah, we're on Ko-fi. And don't forget to check out our YouTube channel as well. And we have new episodes coming out every week. Dave, thanks for coming on.
You're welcome. It's been good. Thank you.
Pete, wrap us up.
Thank you for listening and or watching, if indeed you still are.
Good night.
Good night.
You have been listening to Bags of Action. No bullshit. You'd better stick around for the next episode, because if you're lying, I'll be back.